and today we are going to be going over our first pattern, which is a cloth stitch bookworm, where we'll put beads in for eyes and have these little antennae going, and then we will have these body parts kind of changing, as it were. And this pattern can be found in the Beginner's Guide to Bobbin Lace by Jillian Dye and Adrian Thunder. It's a really good book to have as a beginner at bobbin lace. There's a lot of really good information and good patterns with it. I'm not going to show the book or anything like that or the instructions, but I'm going to work through it. The instructions are written in the book as well, but sometimes it's better to see someone doing it. So yeah, let's get started. Let's go. So I'm going to get the pattern, which is here. I'm going to put the finished product off to the side, and then we are going to put our pins in at the top. Again, how in a previous video I mentioned how to make your patterns on cardstock. Again, this is one of my first patterns, so the pattern is on paper and then I stapled it to cardstock. Definitely not the best way of doing things, but it works, and the pattern's still livable, so I'm going to use it until it kind of falls apart. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to have our cover cloth, and we want to kind of put it over so our bobbins will lay upon the cloth and kind of allow it to not rub the string or the bobbins as we work. And I had shown a previous video of winding your bobbins, so you should have your bobbins wound. I have two different colors because the pattern requests two different colors, so I have purple and green. And if after you wound it, if you forgot, definitely hold one up and let the other one kind of spin, just to kind of let that spinning from the thread kind of leave just a good kind of bobbin management before doing any kind of work. So that is that, and I went over how to wind the bobbins in the previous video as well. And before we jump straight into it, because this one requires beads on it, and so to use beads as the eyes, you don't have to, but it is very recommended. You're going to need some crochet hooks, and this one, I found these beads at just kind of like the bead aisle of Hobby Lobby or Joann or Michaels. And how to kind of double check if it's the right size is if you put it on where the eye is, the square, it fits, it's not too big, too bubbly on it. And again, on this side too, kind of you'll see the spacing of it, of where it's going to be. And then for that, we want to kind of make sure that we get the right crochet hook. So I'll go with this one just to kind of see. And you'll go in the hole and it makes sure it goes in. The smallest one is going to be hard to kind of pick up the thread. This one will be pretty good. Even this bigger one too might work for it. Yeah, it'll go in. It'll be a little bit harder, but it'll go through. I think we'll work with this one though, because this one tends not to be super big or bulky. And you just gotta make sure that your bead hole is big enough to kind of go in, and that it can go on the crochet hook, and that it will go in the right spot. So as you can kind of see, there's a little indentation on the bead, so it'll kind of give it that eyeball effect. If we didn't want that to be front and center, we can always just twist the bead before we put it on so it's smooth. It's however you want to do it. So we'll prep that, and we'll need 2 beads, which I have to the side. And then definitely want to make sure you have your pins, your pin cushion pins, your corsage pins for your cover cloth as we go. I'm going to keep it off camera just because it's easier for me to grab it over here than it is in this area. Um, just with the camera setup, it tends to be a little awkward. So that is what I will do to have, and then we can get started. So if you got the book, you put you wound 7 pairs of bobbins all together. You have one that is longer, has more thread on it. I believe that one has the 72 inches. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a pin in one. You want to put it at like a 45-degree angle so that it's not straight up, it's kind of slanted. You put on one, and then you will hop this over like so. And this way it's kind of hanging there. And so we'll kind of move these off to the side. And then we're going to put a pin in A. I want to get a bigger pin because we're going to end up taking these out. So we'll put a kind of a corsage pin up here. Bit thicker, but it doesn't really matter. And then we have the same color, but on this one, it's only 36 inches. And we are going to take 2 of them. Don't mind the clattering. It's just me getting the bobbin situated. Alright, so we'll have 2 of these. And these are both the same color as the first one, but there is 36 inches rather than the 72. And then we're going to hang these on this top one up here. And we're going to hang it in what's called a rainbow fashion, which just means that one is outside the other pair. And yeah, you can kind of see that they're... Yeah, so we have one, and then we have A, and then if you want them to be a little bit the same length, because as you can see, this pair is a little bit shorter than this one. So how I wound it, and I showed you, if you hold it to the side and then pull and rotate away from you, it'll lengthen, and you can kind of see, you can kind of make them the same length. And then, so they want you to work a plate from this pin here down to this B here. So we're going to just kind of plate from A to B. And so the first thing we're going to do is, for the plating, is we're going to twist one pair over the other. So you're going to take the right side pair and you're going to twist it over the other one. So, and that will be our first twist. And then we're going to cross. So we're going to do this number, I guess we'll count our bobbins. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll do 2 over 3. And that will be a cross. And then we will kind of do that to kind of make it tighter against it. And then we are going to go and we're going to take our 4 and our 2, twist, and then our 2 and our 3, and cross. And then we're just going to kind of keep doing that until we reach our B. And you don't have to tighten it each time. We can like do a couple ones and then tighten. As you can see, we're almost at that B. I think we actually are at that B. Okay, perfect. So to get to that B, we'll now pin it. So we are going to put our pin at that B, again at that 45-degree angle. And so we are now at the B, and we'll put these guys off to the side. Usually when you're pinning, you'll close the pin, but this pattern doesn't specify that. So we won't do it, but as I was working on this earlier, I did think that was a little weird, because in most patterns, if you pin around things, you will close it with a stitch, but because these are plates, I have a feeling that's probably why it's not doing it. So we are going to put a pin in C, and we're going to grab our other colors, same color as before. Again, these are 36, so they're not as long as our longest one over here, but they will give us that kind of outside body. So again, we'll hang it rainbow style, which is just one on the other side, and I'm going to lengthen these, holding it sideways and then rotating away from me. And if you hold the other pairs while you're lengthening, it kind of makes it easier for that. And I kind of like starting with them even. It makes my life easier. So now we're at C, and we're going to work from C to D. So C to D, we're going to plait. And the plait, since we just did a rainbow style, we're going to take our second and fourth bobbins, and we're going to hop it over the second and third, and then that's your twist, and then we're going to cross 2 over 3, and then again we're just going to do that and keep going till we've reached D, which it looks like we are there. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to put our pin in, again, angle it up so it's at that 45-degree. And then we are going to put these kind of off to the side. And we have this pin here. So we're going to put a pin here because now we are going to hang our different color thread. So put that here. And my different color thread I picked for this is a nice purple color. So we are going to hang this. Again, sometimes with all the pins it takes a little bit of finessing around. And again, we're going to hang it like rainbow style, like that. Okay. And so once we hung that, we're actually going to work, grab our worker pair. So the first one we hung, this one with the most thread on it, is what's called a worker pair. And the worker pair is the one that does the active movements through it. And these guys are all passives, which means these worker thread is going to go through these guys and back. And this one's going to do all the work, which is why we have the most thread on it. So we are going to grab, with bobbin lace, you only pretty much work on 4 bobbins at a time. I'm going to move this up so you can see a little bit better. So we have the worker pair and the first passives. I'm going to bring this down so it's about the same length as my worker. And I'm going to do that for all of them since I will be working all of them with the worker pairs. So it's just pretty easy. You go to the side and just kind of kind of roll it away from you. So I'm rolling forward, which is away from me, just to kind of lengthen it and get them all about the same length. And this way, because our worker is going through all of our passives, it just makes it a little bit easier to work with. And then again, we'll move these off to the side. And this guy over here. And this guy over here. So when you're working with a bobbin lace, you work with your 2 pairs, so only 4 at a time. And with that, so with our first stitch, we're going to cross, and a cross is, if we count the bobbins 1, 2, 3, 4, it is the 2 over 3. So 2 over 3 is a cross. And now twisting, So we are still counting the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And a twist is 4 over 3 and 2 over 1. So 4 over 3, 2 over 1. And that is our twist. And then we are going to do another cross, which is our 2 over 3. And that is 1 cloth stitch. And it is abbreviated CTC, sometimes in the pattern. And as you can see with that stitch, our worker is now on the inside. So we've worked it 1 through the passive. And we can move this passive over, and we can grab the next pair. And again, we're going to do the cross, so 2 over 3, and then our twist, 4 over 3, 2 over 1, and then a cross, which is 2 over 3, and then tighten that stitch. And what I mean by tightening is you take both pairs and just kind of bring it up so you're tightening it through so there's no spaces. Move this guy out of the way, and now our worker pair is more inside, so we have 2 passives on the out. And then we are going to grab our first purple pair, and we are going to do, again, the whole pattern is pretty much this cloth stitch. So cross, twist, cross, and then tighten, and then here, cross, twist, cross, tighten, over here, cross, twist, cross, tighten, and then cross, twist, cross. And now we are at the end of the first row. So as you see, we're up here, and you can see our 2 is exposed. So we want to put a pin in that 2. So we will put a pin here, and we'll angle it up. And we want to put that pin so that the thread is caught. So our worker thread is kind of hanging on that pin, and our other thing is on the other side of that pin. So then we're going to do a cloth stitch back that way now. So with that, it's pretty much the same way, but now our 1, 2, 3, 4, our worker pair is now our 3 and 4s. So whenever you're working with bobbins, 1 is always the leftmost, and 4 is always the rightmost. So that never changes. So we'll cross, which is our 2 over 3, twist, 4 over 3, 2 over 1, and then cross, 2 over 3. And then that is our cloth stitch. And then again, same thing, working it through. And you don't have to necessarily tighten after each one with a cloth stitch. You can kind of work a couple and then tighten. So that is perfectly fine. And when you tighten, you also kind of want to kind of just hold these extra passive bobbins you've worked and just kind of bring them down, just to kind of help even things out and tighten the passive so you're not going to have any bumps or lumps in anything. And then we are back here. And now we are at 3. Put our pin in here. Alright, and now we're here, and then we're going to twist twice here on this 3, and then we're going to work back. So cross, twist, cross, tighten, cross, twist, cross. And we're not doing the eyes yet. That's the next way we go back. And as you can kind of see, our worker pair is shortening faster than our passives. and that is fine. That's why there's a lot more thread on it than our passes, because it's going to be using up that thread quicker. And again, we're at our end here. We're going to tighten, bring all these guys down, and then we are going to twist twice, and then pin at 4. So twist twice, and then I'm going to lengthen these just a little bit. And then we are going to close it with a cross, twist, cross. And then we are going to take out these pins on the ears because we don't need to hold these in anymore. So you can take those out. And you can kind of see the antennae are still pretty good. They're just hanging out there. So we got this guy, we got this one, and now we're going to do the eye that's right there. So grab our crochet hook, grab the bead, put it on the crochet hook, and so we have our thread. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have our 4 here. Alright, so with our 3 here, we're going to pick up that 3rd thread with the crochet hook, and then we are going to pass the bead over it. And I'm going to try to do all of this, so bring that there, bead through, and we have a loop. And then we're going to grab the 2nd one, and we're going to put the end through that loop, like so. So go through, and there we have the bead on it. And then we are just going to tighten up on either one of these so it's where we want it. And since it's where we would like, we are going to do just kind of a closed stitch on it. So cross, twist, cross, and we'll go through the little 2, and sometimes your hitch will come out, so you'll just kind of wrap it and put it on again. Okay. Alright, so we're here at this guy, so we're going to work through here. We're going to lengthen this so it works the same. And we're going to, again, grab a bead, put it through our crochet hook, go through the 3rd, kind of hold it, get a nice loop going, grab our 2nd, put it through the bobbin, put the bobbin through the loop, and then just kind of tighten it so it's where the eye should be going. And then we do a stitch, and we twist twice, and and put it in that 5 at an angle. I'm just kind of tightening these guys. Just to kind of get the eyes a little bit less weird looking. So we pinned the 5, did the twist, did a stitch. Now we are going to go back through. So we're going to go back through and just do cross stitch for the head, which will be at 9. So we'll do cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross. And here's a good area to kind of tighten, just to kind of make sure they're nice and where we want them. And then tighten, and then kind of pulling the other passive bobbins down to make sure it's nice and tight. And then we're going to twist this twice. So twist is right over left. So twist twice, put that off to the side, grab a pin, put it in our pinhole, which is labeled 6, and we're going to come back. And with cloth stitch, usually about 2 or 3 is when I tighten. Some people go longer. I find if I go longer, I tend to have a lot of holes, and they just don't tend to work out right. So that is why I'm doing that. And then we are going to try to lengthen this. And sometimes if your hitch is a little too tight, you can grab a pin and very gently, because you don't want to accidentally shred your thread, put it under your hitch and just kind of loosen it. And that way it'll allow you to kind of loosen it easier. And of course, as I say that, it doesn't quite work. So I'm going to do it again. There we go. And then cloth, cross, twist, cross. One, two. And you can see again, our worker pair is a lot shorter now than our passives. So we are going to loosen this. And again, our hitch is tight. So I might just end up redoing it. where your thread's coming from the hitch. And there we go. Okay. Loosened it. So we got it. So I don't have to redo that hitch. Cross, twist, cross. Cross, twist, cross. Cross, twist, cross. And we are going to tighten. And our hitch popped off, which is always fun. So we're gonna put our finger on the bobbin, wrap it around, then our top, and then over, and there we go. Twist, 1, 2, and now we work back. Do 1, 2, and then pin at 10. And so now our head is done, and we are going to do the first section of the body. And in the pattern, move our thread out of the way. So the head ends at 10, and it goes all the way until here. And that's our first segment of the body. And this whole first segment is just that cloth stitch. As you can see here, we did our head is cloth stitch, and then we are at this section, which is like that number 10, and then the next one here is all cloth stitch. So we're going to go to here, and then the next segment is where we're going to start doing some cool things to getting that kind of pattern going on our bookworm. So pretty much you'll just be doing your cloth stitches until we get to that first segment. I love how when I loosen the hitch wants to just keep coming off. And loosen it too much. twist twice, leave it out of the way. And back we go. Just cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross. And you'll kind of notice the first few times you're doing this is you will be talking to yourself of the stitches of cross, twist, cross. I know people like the numbers of 2, 2, 4, 2, which to me confuses me, so cross, twist, cross is what I have in my head. Twist twice. And that just kind of makes it easier for me, because cross, twist, cross is very similar to the numbers, but it makes more sense in my head. So we are going to put our hedge back on. Okay. And then cross, twist, cross. Loosen it to be the same. And when you're tightening, and if your bobbins aren't the same length, sometimes they'll make it difficult to tighten, at least your worked pairs. So if you ever want to tighten and you're noticing you're not tightening evenly, check to make sure your pairs are even, because that is a very common thing to mistake to make, trying to tighten with uneven bobbin lengths. It just makes things a little bit more difficult. And we twisted. Yep. And now we are done with the first body segment. And we're done with the head, the first body. Actually, no. We have one more to go. Just kidding. And I can see that because this little, like, indent here is going to go in just a little bit. So that's the end of the first segment body. So we're going to cloth stitch over to that. So we have 2 more rows to go, because that hooked up to this one, and then we are going to go below. to your 45 degrees. And going back to finish that first segment. Okay, so with that, we finished the head and the first body segment. So now we're going to do our second body. And as you can see, our second body is covered by our cover cloth. So we'll unpin it from the sides, and then we'll go to the sides and down and just kind of shimmy it down till it goes to the next body segment. And we can see, if I move thread out of the way, that the pattern goes, and this is the end of that segment. So we'll pin here because now each segment is going to have a slightly different pattern to work through it. So we'll kind of pin so that when we're done with this segment, we stop, we move, and double check what we're doing. Alright, I'm going to kind of straighten this guy out. Alright, so for this segment, we are, start over here, and we are going to go through, and this is where we're going to start adding the holes. So we're going to do cloth stitches through 3 passes, so 1, 2, 3. So between your 2 other colored threads, like your middle colors, mine is purple. So we're gonna cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross. We're gonna tighten here. And now we're just going to twist our worker pair once. And then we're going to cloth stitch through the rest. So cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross, tighten, now we're going to cross twice, and then hold, and then go back. And every time we get to that middle section, so between the third passive, we're just going to twist our worker once. And so we're going to tighten here. When our worker is untwisted, we twist, which is right over left, and then keep going. And we're just going to do this for the whole body. Every time we get to that middle part, we're just going to twist. 2, and don't forget to keep twisting your ends. We're going to shorten our, lengthen our worker, sorry. And cross, twist, cross. Twist. Now we can see that hole starting to form, that center there. That's what we want. Just get one of these guys. and go back. And of course I undid the hitch on both of them. Happens sometimes. So we're just going to bring this up, wrap it around our finger, around the end, and then bring it through. And then again, around and around. Tighten it. And here we twist once. And as you work on thread that's smaller size, the hitches won't kind of slip off, just because our worker pair had a lot of thread and it's a thicker thread. So it's kind of making it a little bit easier for it to just pop off, which is okay. You can just easily slip it back on. And if you're noticing it's doing it a lot, like too much, try to make sure that your hitch is more in the center of where your thread is and not towards that top. Because sometimes it will sneak its way to that top and then just pop off, which is sometimes annoying. And it's looking good. 1, 2. Lengthen my workers because they're getting just a little too short. We pin. Just kind of make sure everything's nice and even. And since we're going into our next section, our cover cloth is covering it. So we want to make sure to unpin, scooch it down so that the whole section is showing. And then just for you guys to see, I'm going to scooch this up a little bit so you can see the working area a bit better. Alright, and so for our third one, as we can kind of see here, we did this one here. And now we are going to go and do this one where it has hole on either side of that middle. So to do that, we are going to work the cloth stitch. Just linking these. So we're going to cloth stitch once and then twice. And now here we are going to twist our workers and then do a cloth stitch, cloth stitch, tighten, and twist our workers, and then again to the end of the row. Alright, and then we work back. And because our passives are getting a little bit short, I'm just going to lengthen them. And with bobbin lace, if you're noticing that your lace is too loose or you don't seem to have a lot of control over the thread, just kind of check your bobbin length lace, your bobbin lengths, because the length of where you're bobbing, if it's too long, you might have loose lace that's not very consistent. If it's too short, you might start seeing bubbles and things like that. So kind of finding that perfect Goldilocks area where your bobbin should be is trial and error. Your first couple pieces are going to be great, but as you continue working, you'll definitely see vast improvement from your first one to your most recent one. And anytime there is what we might call a mistake happening in the lace, I call it the unique touch. So if people are getting gifts of things, I'm like, if you wanted something machine done that's completely like perfect throughout, then yeah, definitely go to the store, get yourself some lace there. But if you want something that has, that unique touch, that little quirk in it, that someone spent time, poured their heart and soul in it, then get this one. And a lot of times you're not going to find lace bookmarks very easily. They do have the lace like doilies for sale and the lace collars, but I think you can make a lot of cool stuff with lace that you can't really find at the store. And I find making lace is a very soothing hobby for me. It is very meditative for me. I can kind of just put some music on and get lost in my bobbin lacing. And most things don't really take super long. Few hours, like if you're quilting or sewing, things can take months for those. And it's just amazing that bobbin lace, which looks so intricate and delicate, is so quick once you get the hang of it. It's a little crazy. And then you find you're giving bobbin lace things as gifts to everybody because you are winding up with too many projects that you've done and don't know what to do with. And when you're first working with bobbin lace, it is very, very tempting to touch the thread. Just to kind of make sure how things are. Maybe when your bobbins aren't really doing what they want, it's easier to touch the thread. But you want to stay away from that, especially, when you start using white and all that, because there's so many oils and things on your fingers, and you want the lace to kind of stay the same color, have a good way, and you don't want it to collect any of those oils or dirts. Even if you wash your hands, things like that, it's better just to use your bobbins to manipulate the lace rather than touching the thread. And of course, when you have to make that hitch, you do have to touch that thread a little bit, but the less amount of touching you do, the better. And we can start seeing that kind of zipper effect, which is pretty cool. Alright, so again, we've finished a section, so we want to move our color cloth down to reveal the next one we're going to work. And pin that again so it doesn't slip. And so this one, we are going to have holes similar to this first one, but we're going to kind of create more of a like opening area where it kind of gets smaller, wider, and then smaller again. So we will do that. So again, cloth stitch. And now this, we're going to go to the middle, so through 3 passes. And then we're going to do 1 twist here, and then work through our passes. And work back. So now here, instead of 1 twist, we are going to twist twice. So 1, 2, finish. And sometimes it's good to kind of lengthen, tighten each bobbin individually, just to kind of make sure everything's lying straight, there's no bumps or lumps anywhere. Alright, and then we're going to go through 3 passes. So 3 passes. We are going to tighten. And because we did 2 twists last time, now we are going to do 3. And going through our passes. And you can kind of see this guy is really long, so I'm going to shorten it. So I'm going to put it under that hitch, take that hitch off, and then I'm going to wind it up, and then put my finger over it, wind it over, and there we go. And now we've tightened it so it's not quite so loosey-goosey there. Alright, and we're going to do 3 again. 1, 2, 3. And lengthen these because they're just a little too short. cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross. And now since we've done 2 3s, we're going to go down back to our 2. So 1, 2. Now we're going to do 1 since we did 2. Lengthen these. Lengthen these. And because we did 1 twist on the last one, this one we are just going to work all the way through. Again, we're at that time that we want to move our cover cloth. So I'll bring it down, and then it looks like we're towards the end of our pattern. So this is the last section, and the last section is just going through with cloth stitch, so no special twists, holes, or anything like that. We'll just work that cloth stitch until we get to the bottom. And again, remember, cloth stitch is pretty easy. You have your 4 bobbins, cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross. twist twice at the end. And remember, when you're pinning, pin at a 45-degree angle, not straight up and down. That way the lace doesn't ride up. And make sure you're putting in enough so that when you're pulling on it, your pins aren't waving in the breeze. You want to be sturdy and steady. Because your pins are what gives your lace the structure. It's what kind of keeps everything nice and consistent. And when we take the pins out, those will be areas that the lace has set around. So we want to make sure that it's set pretty firmly. Alright, so we're down to our final row. We just pinned our X, and now we're gonna hit to our Y. So we're just gonna cloth stitch through everything one last time. And just kind of hold everything down so nothing kind of scrunches up. Twist twice. And find that Y pin. And now we want to make sure that everything is nice and even. So kind of pull on each bobbin individually just to kind of bring in any bumps, warps, bringing anything that might have popped up. And you can see over here, I don't know if the video is very good, but in person, you can see that each thread as you're tightening it is putting tension on the whole project and kind of making things nice and tight and pretty even. Okay, that looks good. And then for finishing, this is where I'm going to deviate from the book a little bit, just because how they explain it is not very understanding, and this is how I learned how to finish. It's called a magic thread. So first you'll take an outside one. It can either be the right or left. It doesn't really matter. And you're going to put it on top of all the other threads. So you're going to kind of create a 4. And then we're going to slip it under the pile. And right now it doesn't matter if you kind of bunch them up or not. So you slip them under the pile. And then you'll go through that loop you just made. And we'll lift up. And then you'll tighten as high up as you can. Alright, and then we just tension everything. And then we're going to do that one more time. So we'll do 2 hitches. So you'll bring it into that 4, loop it around the threads, and then bring it through that loop that you made. And then you'll tighten and kind of bring it up to where the other one was. And just tighten that bad boy. And you can do this as many times as you like. 2 to 3 tends to be good for me. And then you're going to take a thread that's scrap. This is a little bit long. It doesn't have to be this long. Just kind of a good way so that you can kind of make a loop and put it over those hitch knots that you have. So we have that loop. And then we're going to go through all of the pairs again like we did, but also with that spare thread. So lift them all up, go under, and we're going to hitch it here. So tighten that. And we'll do this 2 times. And you can do 3 and 3. You can do 4 and 4. 1 tends to not hold as well, but you can try it and see what you like. Alright, and then this comes the magic part. So when we are working, we are going to so we're going to have this. We can either unspool it all the way, or we can cut it off. And I want to cut it off because I have a lot on that bobbin. So we cut it off, so it's off the bobbin. We put it through the loop of the thread, the magic thread. So put it through there. And we're going to hold this end and pull the magic loop through. So, and sometimes you have to wiggle it. And then we're just going to pull it out all the way and bring this in. And now we have this on this side instead of our right side, and everything is nice and straight. And now we can cut off, leaving a bit of a tassel. And I believe they say like 1.5 inch. You can make it as long or as short as you want. And this, you can touch the thread on the tassel. It's okay. And I'm going to make it however long this is. And you'll just cut through the threads. Okay. Apparently I need a sharper scissors. And there we have a nice tassel and our bookworm. And now we still have our pins in, and we're going to want to leave that in for about 24 hours. The longer you leave it in, the more it has time to set around those pins. So we will do that reveal 24 hours later. We will do that reveal 24 hours later, which I just said. But while we're waiting, you want to take your cover cloth and put it over your working. This kind of lets any dust, hair, pets, kids from messing with it. It keeps the dirt away to keep your lace nice and safe. And so then we will wait that 24 hours and reveal it later. Dun, dun, dun. Alright, so it has been 24 hours since we finished, and we are going to take that off. And now we get to do the fun part of unpinning our bookmark. Pretty much just kind of go through. I like holding down the tassel just to kind of keep things nice and stable. I've never really heard of a particular way that you have to unpin. So I usually start from the end, work my way up. Sometimes if the lace wants to come up off with the pins, sometimes I'll grab something unsharp, something dull that I can just kind of hold it down as I work my way up, just to kind of keep it from lifting up and keeping it stable. And the reason why we waited 24 hours was to let the lace set so that it will stay with the, kind of stay in the area that the pins are holding, and that when we remove it, we're taking away that structure. And so the lace should be able to keep its shape even without the pins. And we are just moving right along. And you can go one pin at a time. Sometimes if it's pins, there are a couple pins kind of in the same area, I do 2 or 3 pins just to kind of keep the repetitive motions to a minimum. But you don't want to like go fistfuls and grab it. You just kind of want to do a little bit here, a little bit there, just so not to kind of completely destructure the lace. Alright, and then there is our bookmark with our eyes. And the reason that the antenna here got a little bit shorter was because I accidentally took the pin out early. I took the pin out when we did the eyes, but I should have waited till we were down here to take it out. Or you could have always waited till the end as well. Usually when you have these things like up here with these letters, I've been using patterns that have pretty much those are non-permanent pins. So in my head I was like, alright, we're going to take it out, we're going to remove these pins, and it's not that type of pattern because we didn't want to bring the antenna lower. So, and I just use this to take the pins out of my pattern to unpin it. And then we have our nice bookworm, which looks really good. And then if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it down below. And if you would like to support an artist, I do have my Patreon link in the description. I will continue going through the Beginner's Guide to Bobbin Lace by Gillian and Adrian Thunder. Gillian Dye and Adrian Thunder. And the next one is the half stitch bookworm. So we'll use the same pattern, and it'll look a little bit different than the one we just did. So look out for that video. And if you would like any suggestions, have any questions, feel free to put it down below. Thanks, and have an awesome day.